Hey, what's up guys? Today I'll be doing a review on the Fierce Reflex Elite Hybrid Cobra Reflex bag. So check it out. Okay guys, so as usual, before I do the full review, I'm gonna give you guys a close-up of this Cobra bag. This is the Elite Hybrid model, which is their most expensive Fierce Reflex bag at $539. I've had this Cobra bag for almost 2 months now. It's been part of my training every week and part of my rotation on what I do for my training. As you can see here, starting from the very top, it does come with this leather ball or leather bag, if you want to call it, that is inflatable. You have the inflation port at the top. It's made out of leather. The stitching on here is okay. Could have been definitely better. I'm assuming that this bag itself is probably made in Pakistan. It says FR and Fierce Reflex, that's printed on there. And then it actually is laced up here at the bottom, and there's an actual plastic cup that tapers open on this pole, this metal steel pole that goes up into here. And then when you tie it off, it basically kind of makes this part connect. There's also extra bags and bladders that you can purchase on the Fierce Reflex website if you need a replacement right there. So you have that. I'm going to talk to you guys about some of the drawbacks of this system right here in a second. I got mine in the white and this kind of candy apple red. If you go on the website, they have different colorways you can choose from. Here's a close-up of the actual spring. This is going to be the kind of the main brain of the operation. You can see the weld is actually pretty clean on here. Do a really nice job. The spring is held up pretty well. Overall, it's doing pretty nice there. And then here's the weld kind of at the bottom, just to show you guys. Another good thing I like about this is that they put on this adjustment knob that says Fierce Reflex that's made out of this hardened rubber. It actually feels more durable and just more heavier duty than the other ones I've seen before. That's a tack weld on there where you screw in. So you can see here, this adjustment knob is what you can do to raise and lower the height. The only thing is that there's no actual holes in the bottom pole. So when you tighten the knob down, it's basically just a machine screw that screws in directly into the metal. So you'll end up seeing that you'll have like little nicks and whatnot in the metal because you're screwing directly into it. I mean, it's not a huge deal, but and maybe it would have been better if there was like preset holes, kind of like what Ringside does. And then you have the red metal pole that goes all the way down to the bottom. Obviously I have my weight on here, but the bottom plate just has 4 holes at the bottom. If you decide to mount it directly into your floor, you can use concrete anchors. And then it comes with this bag, this nylon bag that you fill with 140 pounds of sand. So basically what you would end up doing, it has handles on it too, is you would fill this up with sand you can get from your hardware store or wherever you get sand from, to 140 pounds. And that keeps it pretty stable. But on top of that, you can also add your own weight to it. So I didn't actually get sand for mine just because I already had weighted plates at home. So I just didn't want to spend the extra money because I could use these plates. And you can actually remove this knob and slide the plates over. The opening is big enough to slide over and drop down to the bottom. So there's a couple of different ways you can go about it. You can obviously fill that bag with sand and then put your own weight on top for it to be really nice and solid. You can use your own Olympic style weight plates, just making sure that the opening, this hole is large enough to go around this pole. Or the best way is you can use the plate at the bottom of this pole that's welded on and anchor it directly into your concrete floor. That's the preferred way to do it. The only drawback on that is that it makes it permanent. And when you do that, you could essentially move it again, but then you'll have holes in your floor. That to me is more like for a boxing gym type scenario, or even at your home. If you have like a section in your garage or in your house that you can dedicate just for the Cobra bag, then that's the best way to go about doing it. But not everybody has that option. Some people need to be able to move the bag, so you can go that route. If you're wondering what this wooden plate with the brackets are, I did a video on this. This is actually a kit you can purchase on Amazon. I'll put the link in the description box for this, that you can actually push down on with your foot. And then from here, you can actually move this. And then from there, if you get into the position that you want it, you can just lift up on this and it lowers the brakes so that it can't move anymore. So I use this in my home, in my garage, just because I need the mobility to move around because I have so much equipment in here. I have my heavy bag, my water bag, you know, my title shot, my reflex stick. So I'm always doing stuff in this area, so I needed something to move that around. But there you have it. That's a close-up. This is the box that it came in, and it's delivered pretty much pre-assembled. The only thing you need to do is just slide this pole in here, and then from there just add the speed bag. But it's kind of pre-assembled already, and then it comes with the assembly instructions, which are really easy to follow along with. You know, the warning right there, participation, and it basically just tells you how to go about doing everything. So that's nice. The air pump is not included, so if you do purchase this, you'll have to go to the store and get yourself, if you already don't have one, a cheap air pump to fill that up, but not a huge deal. So let's go ahead and do the review. Hey, what's up guys? Carlo here, and today I'm doing a review on the Ferris Reflex Elite Hybrid Cobra Reflex Bag. This Reflex bag retails for $539, and you can get it in multiple different colorways on the Ferris Reflex website. This particular Cobra bag, like many of the others, are kind of like a custom build. You really don't see them consistently come out with the same color. So it's almost like a seasonal item where when you go on their website and you check it out, you'll see that they have different colorways in stock. They also have their Pro Elite model, and they also have their Amateur model, which are a little cheaper than this version. But this version is their highest end model that you'll end up seeing, like Ryan Garcia, Canelo, Andy Ruiz using a lot of their videos. You guys watch on social media, YouTube, Instagram, whatever you guys are watching on. But this is the particular model that you see at their gym. But what they end up doing with theirs is they actually have it done or mounted and installed the preferred way, which is where they mount it directly into the floor, which you can do as well if you want a permanent setup. When you set it up that way, it gets the least amount of vibration and it performs best. And as you know, the better it performs is with the least amount of vibration. So if you can anchor it in, then you'll get the quickest rebound and it just feels a lot more solid. Otherwise, you just have to use a ton of weight to kind of offset that so you don't get that vibration. Now, looking at mine, I think it has a beautiful construction to it. For those of you guys that are wondering height-wise what this is at, I'm going to put it down at its lowest setting. I have my measuring tape here just to show you guys. So at its lowest setting, from the floor to, I'd say, the top of the bag is almost right at 59 inches. So 1 inch shorter than 5 feet. And so I would say from the bottom of the bag to the floor is about 51 inches. So you're looking at about 4.5 to 5 feet right here in the center section of the bag. So for those of you guys who are wondering that you wanting to use it for your kids or someone that's shorter, that's the lowest setting you can go. So you're looking at about, on average, about somebody that's 4 foot 6 inches in height. That's going to be right here in the middle at the lowest setting with the knob all the way unscrewed. At the highest setting, let me go ahead and raise this all the way up. I'm going to put it up and secure it. So at the highest setting to the very top of the bag, I mean, it's pretty high. You're looking at like 79 inches, almost like 6'8". So you can be really tall, although I don't really recommend going that high because the higher you go, now you have all of this pole that's kind of exposed. So when you hit the bag, you're putting a lot of like tension. There's a lot of room and stress that's placed on this middle section. So if anything, comfortably, I would say maybe halfway down is probably the highest I would go. I'm not saying you can go higher, that's completely up to you. But the highest I would go is probably, like 6 feet 1, 6 feet 2 is probably the best I would go. I mean, and generally speaking, I mean, obviously there's really tall boxers out there, the heavyweights, Deontay Wilder, Tyson Fury, and all the other guys. But, I think for generally speaking, the majority of us will be able to work pretty well height-wise with this bag. Now, I've had this thing for 2 months, and probably the biggest question I've gotten when it comes to this bag and Cobra bags in general is if this thing is worth the money. And that's really hard to answer. The reason I say that is because we all have different budgets. So $539 is a lot of money regardless, right? I mean, but to some people, it's not a huge deal because they do well for themselves, they can afford something like this and they're willing to spend the money. And then for some of you, for some of us out there, for some of you guys that are watching, that's a lot of money that you have to save up, and understandably so. So you want to be able to justify spending that much. And I can tell you this, it is a very nice quality product. So, the spring is held up well, the knob, the adjustment, the bottom plate that connects to the floor, I haven't had any issues with it breaking off. I train with this properly. I don't sit there and just swing haymakers at it all day. Not to say that you can't, because you can hit this thing with some really hard shots. So it's held up really well. The only drawback with this, which I mentioned earlier, is this bag design. Now, hopefully they fix this going forward, but the top of this pipe, and I'm not showing you guys can watch the video that I did when I did the unboxing of this to see it. But this pipe right here has this like hardened PVC plastic cup that's tapered open like this. And what that does is it sits inside the bottom leather of the bag, and then the bag has laces. So you lace it up. It's almost like it's like basically an upside down speed bag. And you lace it up, you tie it off, and then you wrap the laces around it, create a knot, and you tie it down. But that doesn't work good enough, because what ends up happening when you're hitting this is that the laces loosen up and the bag ends up popping off. So what you end up having to do is get some tape. I used boxing tape and some electrical tape at the bottom and tape this off so that the laces can't get loose and undone, and it's held up well. I just think that's kind of ghetto, and like kind of a ghetto way of doing it, especially for a piece of equipment that's $539. To me, you shouldn't have to do that for spending that amount of money. So to me, they need to kind of correct or come up with a better system for something like this, especially at the price point that you're paying. Outside of that, I mean, the bag is held up well. There's some marks on here for me using it, a little bit of dirt. I don't know what that is. Maybe it's like chocolate or something. I don't know how the hell you got chocolate on there, but the bag is held up well. Is the quality of this bag the best? No, I would say the quality of this bag is kind of like similar to like a ringside Apex speed bag, except it uses genuine leather. But as far as like the stitching goes, it's very similar to that, made in Pakistan. The bladder on the inside is held up well. It hasn't exploded yet. You just have to reinflate it every couple of days because it starts to soften up over time and lose air. I mean, that's really any speed bag or double end bag. Anything that you have to inflate will lose air over a period of time. So, but outside of that, the spring is held up really nicely. It does have excellent rebound. It's pretty much the same as the Q-less spring in terms of the rebound rate. I really didn't feel much of a difference. And to the naked eye and to the naked punch and feel, you really don't feel much of a difference there from like this and the Q-less one. So back on track with answering your question, is it worth the money? It is if you can afford it and you can justify the price of $539. If that doesn't bother you paying that much for it, then yes, I think it's worth that price. Now, if you are on a lower budget and you want something that's more affordable, then I recommend going with making your own using the Q-less Pro Spring and going to the hardware store and building your own for under $100. Because to be honest with you, from a performance perspective, it's the same. So what I mean by that is when you hit the ball and you're getting that fast rebound like you do with this Cobra, this Fierce Reflex bag, you're getting the same performance with the Q-less Spring. The only difference is you have to source out and get your own inflatable bag at the top, and then you have to buy your own like steel pipes and use the little hose clamp connectors. You have to do all of that, build it yourself, but you're saving a ton of money. So that's my answer to that. I guess there's really no wrong answer per se, because for me to say, well, it's not worth it, if it was a really crappy product, then I would be like, yeah, you know what, it's not worth the money at all. But it is a nice product. I think, the finish, the powder coating paint they use on here is held up nicely. The spring does well. I mean, you can tell that they put a little bit more thought into the components, like the knob being more sturdier, the plate is sturdy. It just doesn't feel cheap. Like I did a review on the Alibaba Cobra bag that I got from China. You can tell like just the aluminum and the metal and the welds on there just felt cheaper. Performed nicely, cost half or more than half less than this one. But it just didn't feel as sturdy and didn't feel as well built. So you're essentially paying for that. So yes, it's worth the money if you are willing to pay that amount. It's performed really nicely for me. And I honestly have no complaints about it. It just depends on the price point that you're looking at. But overall, I'm really satisfied with this, minus this part of the bag where I think they need to figure this out and do that better. So that's my thoughts on this bag. If you guys have any questions or comments, make sure you guys leave them down below in the comments box. I'll put the link in the description box where you can find this Elite Hybrid Cobra Reflex bag. See you guys later. Take care.